We're coming live. And let me just add a seconds counter so that I can actually see. Oh, we are at 7 o'clock. That's it. We are live. So hopefully people are coming into the room to join us for this special Google Hangout of Going Viral. I am Steve Dotto, and I am your host for this evening. Let's take a look in the chat room and see if people are indeed there. Yes, we've got people there. Diane's there and Jeff, and we got Jesus and Karen and Roy. We've got some people in the room. That's awesome, because we're going to be talking today about going viral. So by the end of this webcast, we should have thousands of people online with us, I'm pretty sure. Let me introduce the cast of characters that we're going to be chatting with tonight. First up, Stephanie Cameron. Stephanie is a blogger and writer. It's based currently in Victoria, BC, soon to be based in parts unknown. And Stephanie had a massive success, a viral success, commenting on the Jian Ghomeshi fiasco. Stephanie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hey.
Are you excited about being here?
I am. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Yeah. Now, hot on the heels of Stephanie's success, Sean Smith, who is the social media guy in Campbell River, who likes poking his opinion into everything government and organizational, created a small post about, and I think pretty much an innocent post about BC Ferries. For those of you that might not be in our local area, BC Ferries is a part of our highway system here in British Columbia, tying the mainland British Columbia to the islands, Vancouver Island being one of them. Sean made a little post which just exploded in his face and in the face of BC Ferries, and a massive viral success there. And Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, are you excited about being here?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited that anybody's not thrown anything at me lately.
Well, nobody here works for BC Ferries. And helping me out with everything is going to be Bosco Anthony. Now, Bosco is one of the true bright minds in social media in Canada, probably internationally. And Bosco is this actual webinar or this webcast today was really conceived by Bosco and Sean, thinking that this is a topic that we should be sharing. And so, Bosco, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and I think after this I'll start to fly to the island every time I visit.
We might have to.
Parts unknown.
So to all of our attendees, a little bit of just giving you a little bit of the lay of the land. So we are in a Google Hangout, as most of you probably know, but if you don't, if you look on the right-hand side of your screen right now that you're viewing us in, there is a chat window. So we encourage you to ask questions and to participate in that chat window. So we want this to be as iterative a conversation as possible. So if you do have questions, if you do have comments, please post them there. And in the meantime, if you would be so kind, let us know where you're coming in from. I imagine most people are coming in from BC because we do have a little bit of a British Columbia-centric topic today, but let us know where you're visiting us from and joining us from so we can say hi to you. There's just going to be a fairly small and intimate group. I see Vicky's there, and I happen to know Vicky is in Maple Ridge because I was talking to Vicky 5 minutes ago. And I'm sure she'll have some insightful comments because she has a pretty solid background in governance and stuff like that. So while we're doing that, I'm going to get Stephanie. Would you just quickly give us like the 45-second synopsis of your Jian Ghomeshi post, why you posted it, and then what happened shortly thereafter?
Well, on the Sunday afternoon, Jian Ghomeshi came out with his, "Oh, my dad's dying. My dad died, and CBC fired me, and everybody's evil." Post, and basically I got pissed off because I have both journalism and public relations behind me. So I read that statement for what it was, which is a load of horseshit. Well, pardon me. And sorry. And I thought this was totally transparent, but then Facebook exploded with "Poor Jean," and everybody was feeling so sympathetic and getting on his side. Couldn't sleep that night because I was pointing out all the arguments that everybody was making that were wrong. And the next morning I literally got out of bed, padded over to the computer in my pajamas, and banged that thing out in about 2 hours and posted it, and then it exploded. The next day, I mean, that day I had about 30,000 people read it. The next day it was 87,000. I had it cross-posted in both Huffington Post and the Vancouver Observer. The Vancouver Observer said that in a single day it obtained the most hits out of anything on their site in the last month. So Yeah, so it just exploded overnight, and then next thing you know, I was on like Fox News of Canada, which is Sun TV, doing a national live interview. I was on a couple of radio stations, and yeah, it just went a little bit nutty for about a week there.
So one of the keys, I think, to what you to your post, Stephanie, was the fact that your original post was going counter to the general sentiment that was happening on Facebook at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you could really say that morning I changed the conversation in Canada from "what about the victims?" Like from poor Jean, he's a victim, to no, he actually has victims, according to the Toronto Sun.
So and I'm looking in our list of where people are coming from. We got Roy from Tennessee, we got Jeff from Michigan, so we got people from all over the planet coming, or at least all over North America. So the viral post that Stephanie is talking about came about as a result of a fairly prominent Canadian celebrity, a host of a well-respected Canadian radio program on our national broadcaster on CBC, basically doing a mea culpa on Facebook on a Sunday afternoon that he was about to be that he was having issues at his job because of his he was from what he described as, did he say it was it
he said that she was a jilted ex-lover who wasn't happy about their BDSM arrangement and thought that she would use it to get money or whatever else, you know. He was saying that she was going after him for.
And he said he liked extreme sex, and that some of us might be shocked by this, but it was always consensual. Since that point, this gentleman has been exposed as a bit of a sexual predator. There's been many women now come forward saying that no, indeed he was being very harmful and very physically abusive in relationships, and he was fired by his job.
Right, and I would have to say that one of the reasons why my thing went viral was because I was one of the only people who said that everything he said about BDSM in his post was actually not true to the community itself. And, you know, I mean, he basically was lying about that because none of what he was saying goes with the code of the community.
Okay,
So I have a question, and again, this is just, you know, listening to both sides here. I think the beauty about the digital world is that it brings about so much transparency today than ever before. Stephanie, would this give us a different reaction 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago? I mean, in your opinion, is it because people can just get online and voice their opinion for or against this current situation? Is it the signs of the times today that allows things to go viral? Because, you know, one would ask, could this actually go viral 20, 30 years from now, or 30 years ago?
You don't even have to look that far back. Look back to 2006 when Bill Cosby got charged with rape, paid hush money, it made headlines and disappeared. 8 years later, a comic says something in a club and it explodes, right? I mean, even Twitter and Facebook 5 years ago were irrelevant. Like, they were sort of making a point, but now they're everything, right? I mean, today is a very different beast than less than a decade ago.
So it's interesting how much equity goes into social platforms and digital platforms now more than ever before.
Absolutely.
Good point.
I don't want to leave Sean out, so we'll briefly give a synopsis of Sean's story, and then we'll open it up and we'll start the real roundtable conversation. Now, Sean Smith, based in Campbell River, British Columbia. Sean, give us the 45-second overview of your ascent to fame.
Well, if anybody is from British Columbia, they know that probably one of the best things that people do as a pastime is bash BC ferries, especially if you live on the West Coast. And we recently, the BC Ferry organization recently said that they were going to basically cut off one of our major routes, which was between Horseshoe Bay and Departure Bay. And of course, this is essentially the same as lighting a stick of dynamite and seeing what happens. And within about 24, 48 hours, the Ferry Corporation and the BC government flip-flopped and says, no, we're not going to do that. In and around that time, I was kind of going through this. I was sitting down at breakfast, and I saw more news on this, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to write something. And quite honestly, I thought maybe a dozen or so of my friends would see it, and they'd get a giggle out of it, and that would be the end of it. So I typed 100 words, that was it, and went off. A couple of hours later, I come back, and there's like 800 likes of the post, and somewhere in the area of about 100 plus shares. And I went, uh-oh, something's happening here. By the end of the day, it was pushing over 2,500, and it was that kind of, oh my goodness, I've created a monster. And I just watched it. Literally by the end of the second day, I was watching the likes tick over like seconds on a clock. And then I realized that I'd had something, and then the media started to call in about, within about a week, I'd done 20 media interviews with television, radio, newspapers, all within BC and a couple in Alberta.
And you had one big advantage, and that was the, how do I put this correctly, the stupidity of the BC Ferry Corporation, and the fact that they validated everything that you said by responding to you. I mean, that would be like Stephanie having Jian Ghomeshi respond to her post. You actually had them respond to you and legitimize everything you were saying.
Within 24 hours, BC Ferries, because I posted my little rant when I noticed it was going, I actually posted it again on their Facebook page. And they replied, and at first, their first reply was one of their canned replies out of their sets in Hootsuite, and then it was followed up by the person who I know is their social media manager, and she replied with a slightly more detailed, although well-spun context, and it just blew up even further. The irony of this is that prior to my putting the post up, BC Ferries page had something like 12,000 likes and maybe 800 visits. By the end of the first week, they had 8,000 visits. And they were excited about this, except for the fact that about 90% to 95% of it was negative sentiment. So even their marketing stuff that they thought was driving the conversation wasn't even close to it.
That's fascinating. Now, my first question for both of you, and I'll let Bosco ask the next question, but my first question with both of you, as you saw your posts going viral, did you start to rub your hands together in glee thinking, my break, this is something that I'm going to be able to leverage, to monetize, to turn into something of personal benefit as well? No, not even a little bit. I think I spent the first 2 days absolutely gobsmacked that it was actually happening. As a social media coach, I'm always teaching how viral just happens, and suddenly it's happening to me. And I think the thing that was hitting me the most was I have no idea what to do with this. Until we had a conversation on the phone and we figured it out. Until Bosco and I talked, he says, you need to try this, and you should think about that, and you should think about the other thing, and then suddenly my mind kicked over from the, what the hell is happening to, all right, back into the military move here, and let's go this way. Stephanie, what about you? Did you immediately think this could be my big break?
Well, I had the misfortune, as I was telling you earlier, that my website actually broke that day, and I had something like 25,000 people, and my website crapped out, and I know about as much about WordPress as any amateur does, right? I try to pay people to do that for me when I can, but I was trying to, I was on the phone with the web company for an hour trying to resolve it, and then I had to try to clean out the cache and all this sort of stuff. I deleted my actual template, so I had no blog. And then when I tried to put one on quickly, all of a sudden I didn't realize until the day after that I had no archive. So 85,000 people saw my stuff, and not one of them could read anything I had ever written before. I mean, they might have read it and said, holy crap, this is good. What else has she written? Nothing, ever. Oh, lucky, It's so I knew then that I'd kind of missed my boat on this one, but I also know that going viral really does jack for you. It just disrupts your life for about a week to 2 weeks. If you're lucky, you turn 1 or 2 good people. Margaret Atwood follows me on Twitter now, so there's that, right? And she only follows 1,000 people out of 500,000 that follow her, so that's something. And then I got a few $100, but that's about it. So I made some money. Your clout score went through the roof, but it could have been so much better. Yeah, well, all I ever got from Clout was a pack of Mrs. Dash seasonings, so, you know.
Well,
I'm going to ask a question here, and I'm going to first start off with Sean. I think the obvious question here is, you brought about the canned messaging system that most brands have, and let's face it, most brands today have what they think is the safety net for when it comes to escalations, or you're basically, your whole story is an escalation in their eyes. What could have BC Ferry, in your opinion, done differently? Because when I look at this, I see this as a huge opportunity where they could have actually invited you over to come in and actually done some work with them to help them with their brand reputation and image. Because let's face it, when a 90% or 80% sentiment is all negative, that one should take a cue that your social reputation needs some love.
Well, and this was just it. I mean, the first thing that comes out of the gate is the spin, and as a lot of corporations will do is they will try and, so you don't understand. When the CEO of the company came out 3 days later and basically said, "Hey, I'm sorry, he's not saying anything that we haven't already heard 100 times before,
Right.
And I'm sorry, but BC Ferries is complicated." All right, fair enough. Uncomplicate. Explain to us how everything works. This was really a golden opportunity for them, if they didn't have anything to hide, to put it all out in front. It is already online. I mean, I think the thing that drives them the nuts the most right now is all the information that I'm supplying is right off their own website.
Right.
But it was a great opportunity for them to do the thing that they keep saying that they're doing, which is engage the public and ask them questions. What don't you like? It would blow up even more, but they would get a lot of feedback that they potentially could find value in. And and then they would have been able to come out as going, okay, now we're listening. You've got our attention. Now we're listening. And what they're coming off right now is pretty much what they've always come off as is, yeah, keep talking. That we don't really care. We're going this way.
Right. And for Stephanie, in this particular case, was this a publicity stunt, or was this sort of Jian Ghomeshi coming out first because he knew something else was going to be hitting them shortly after? Was this really a publicity stunt?
I think your big problem with Jian Ghomeshi is that he is a Class A narcissist, and he is arrogant and cocky and vain, and he leads with that. And by that I mean he thinks he knows that he's making the right move, but if you go and you look at the legal analysis, he's really shot his defense in the foot with this, which is the exact opposite that he was trying to do. What he wanted to do was to frame the discussion and say, hey, I wasn't fired because I was violent towards women. I was fired because CBC is boring and they don't like rough sex. Right? And so he was trying to frame the discussion, which is a classic PR 101 move, right? So there was a lot of mistakes that he made, and it was all out of arrogance. And this is why, like, if you even have an inkling of this kind of happening in your life, don't be Jian. Talk to a lawyer.
What would be different? Sorry, Steve. I was just going to ask you, what do you think could have happened differently? I'm going to ask the hard question here, but if you had to look at the scenario, what would you do differently if you were in his shoes?
How do you? Oh, well, maybe not bang women's heads against the wall. That's a start, right? I mean.
Fair enough.
I say don't do that, but aside from that, don't talk to a lawyer. Don't be the well, everybody loves me because I've got a great personality. I'll just turn to my audience and they'll rally up around me. I mean, like, save my narcissism. Like, no.
The ironic thing about that, the Jian Ghomeshi coming forward with his post was it was completely he had heard the Toronto Star and I can't remember the name of the host, but a podcast called Canadaland were trying to nail him on this. Thanks. They were trying to nail him for a long time on this. They were trying to get this out into the public, and he knew it. But he was in control of the situation, and he'd heard that there was that Canadaland was going to come forward with some hard evidence about a CBC journalist. It turns out it was actually about a story that Terry Milewski was covering. It wasn't about Jian Ghomeshi, and he basically blew it out of the water himself and just legitimized the entire story.
Because he's a narcissist, and everything is about him. That's
I
why.
want to throw a shout out to Vicky here. She throws a really good comment. She says, "No pun intended here, but it sounds like BC Ferries missed the boat."
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one thing that is fairly obvious is that there are a lot of people out there who are feeling very disenfranchised by the ferry service, and I think the most common thing I've heard is feeling held hostage by the service that allows them to get back and forth from the mainland to the island. And they really are coming off as they don't care. They're not engaging in the conversation in any place. It's almost too late now for them to engage in the conversation in any place without being torn to shreds. And you can see
It was too late a year ago, man.
it was, but then we didn't actually have everything kind of converging on a single spot. Where the post went viral on the 12th of went viral on the 10th, but now like almost later, and it's still, and the end result is are going more. I want more about the stuff that's more about that aren't working information that we don't know is legitimate. And
Sean, I'm going to get hold on. Somebody else getting an echo from Sean right now.
I am.
Yeah, it's weird here. It's weird here.
Yeah, Sean, I'm putting you in the penalty box for a few minutes. Stop talking. Instead, what I'll do is I actually I don't want to interrupt your question. Are you guys getting echo for me too?
Yep.
Shoot. Okay. All right. We'll just deal with the echo. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, there is no rest. They can all that it's going to more are jumping on this.
Everybody's having a problem with this.
Hey, I was going to ask, are you guys all on the BC Ferries right now accessing the internet?
Okay, here's the thing. Bosco, you're the only one that's not echoing, so you keep talking.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, as I was saying, I think Sean is on the BC Ferries accessing the internet because it's not the greatest. But I'm going to start off, I guess, by bringing up something else that I brought up at Social Media Camp, and it has to do with going viral. A lot of brands plan to go viral. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, you have to be awesome to go viral. And I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of different topics that really relate to the audience that make something go viral. And I think the two obvious lessons we're seeing here is that both Stephanie and Sean were on two really relatable items that both, that people were thinking of and were really, wanting to talk about. Two really important discussions, and they just happened to be the catalyst that sparked that discussion and that catalyst that really got the engine going when it came down to going viral. And it really is a lesson. There's so many lessons here. The first lesson is, plan to figure out what to do when you do go viral. And I think Sean really had a really great takeaway there, and I think Stephanie too. But even from the brand side of it, I think there's a lot of lessons on what happens when you go viral for all the negative reasons, and how do you come back from that? How do you work with that, and how do you manage that? And I don't think there's a template. I don't think there's an escalation or crisis managed template that can really bring you back to the positive light. I think the one thing that everybody would have probably forgiven or seen more of is if the brands actually did something positive or actually took the feedback and worked on it and did something different. I think that would really have changed perhaps even the BC Ferries image when it comes down to going viral.
I think it's unfair to yeah, so it's to that echo?
No, you're good right now.
Okay.
No, not here.
No, they're still getting echo from me. Dag nabbit. How am I going to fix this? I'm the technical guy. I've got the responsibility on my shoulders.
Oh yeah, there's a comic here from Sean.
Is that better?
I can hear you, my friend.
Sean, you talk.
You're still getting quite the echo at this end.
I don't have that.
Dag nabbit. Go ahead, Stephanie. You talk again.
Me? Okay. Me? Okay.
Nah, you're doing it too. You're doing it too.
Damn it.
Okay.
Damn it.
Here's what we're. How am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix this?
Okay, everybody come back.
Shush. Shush. Everybody shush. Just settle down. Chat room. Do not leave. Do not leave. Here's what we're going to do. Sean, Stephanie, leave the quit, and log back in. I can't do that. Okay? And Abasco, you carry the day.
All right.
You talk.
All right.
You talk. And I'm just going to be the chat guy.
Okay, so I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask the audience to throw me some questions.
That's a bad idea. Sorry. Oh. I'm just kidding.
You're not supposed to be saying anything. Anyways, right? Blame. So I want to hear what the audience has to say. Obviously, if there's questions or things you want to throw at me, that would be great because it'll allow me to talk and sort of improvise here. And I think I'm just going to keep rambling on here until somebody tells me to stop. But
Hi. Am I working now?
Yeah, you're working perfectly, Stephanie.
No, she's not. You're the only one that can't hear it.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
Vicky, throw me some questions. I see you're in the chat.
Hello. No, you still got the echo.
This is fun. we might actually go viral for actually not planning to have echoes.
Okay. I think I fixed it. No, I didn't fix it. Never mind.
Sounds like a really ominous audio track where everybody should talk slowly and deeply.
I'm wondering if you guys use headphones, if it'll work a lot better.
I am using headphones.
No, Sean and Stephanie.
Stephanie has them.
Oh, Stephanie is? Okay.
Yeah, and Sean wasn't connected when Stephanie was talking. So.
Okay.
I hope it's
See,
not.
I can't restart. Here's. Do we dare? We'll come back and we relaunch the whole segment.
Well, I've got a great question for Vicky, so I'm just going to run with it until you figure this out.
Well, no, what I've figured out. What we have to do is I actually have to restart the entire Hangout, which means everybody listening right now, show your love, log back on in about 2 minutes. Can you do that?
Come on, people.
Just say it once, Sean. This reminds me of a joke. Anyways. So I'm gonna stop the podcast. Don't anybody leave. I'm gonna stop it, and then I'm gonna start it again, if I can. If not, you might have to log on again. Okay, is everybody with me? Thumbs up from the hosts. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna stop it. Try back. 3, 2, 1.